Philosophy, please welcome to stage your host and combat, Charlie Duncan Saffrey, that's me. We don't have a microphone, so I'm going to put that out of the way. It's lovely to see you all, this is amazing. Welcome to Stand Up Philosophy, in a room which is, I think, accurately between one of the finest universities in the world and at the other end of the street, a lap dancing club. I think, figuratively and literally, that's the place for us. Who came to the Stand Up Philosophy at the LSE last Tuesday, which here? Some people. This is going to be very different from that, mainly because there's drinking. How this is going to work is, I'm going to bring on a series of philosophers. They are going to make an argument for something philosophical related to this evening's topic, which is time. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring on our first philosopher of the evening. The first philosopher of the evening is a stand-up comedian that I very, very much admire. I'm going to just let him come on and do his thing. Let's get our
obedient, which is a great start. Okay, I'm just going to give you the title of this and then we'll roll on from there. I have called this badly written piece simply called Time Travel, What's the Point? Right? So the idea was this, is that I like to start all my bits with this because I like to get a judge of the room. I'm a geek and I'm proud, okay? Who in this room is happy to call themselves a geek? See, that's how geeks react. They just put their hands up, they don't really get involved. When I was invited to come along to this, I was excited, because obviously I couldn't talk about my specialist subject, ghosts, but time travel is probably the second most interesting thing I find. I decided to go with time travel because of my geek leanings, because some of my favourite films are all based on time travel. Obviously, we've got things like Back to the Future, right? Back to the Future is kind of the great time travel trilogy. All the ideas, most of the things that we understand about time travel, in layman's terms, people can understand by watching Back to the Future. If you want to ruin that, you show them Back to the Future 2. Okay? And then when you reset the balance, you make them go watch Back to the Future 3, and if you haven't hated you by then, the animated series isn't too bad. Maybe my favourite time travel movie, and the best example of why I think time travel, what the point, is a film called Primer. Has anyone seen Primer? Yeah. Primer is the film equivalent of putting your head in a blender, and then dying. Basically, if you don't know the film, it's really, it's good in so much as it breaks your brain. But it's not exactly a romp at the cinema. It's about these two scientists who come up with a time machine. Very simple premise. They make it in their house, and it's that. But what happens throughout the film is you realise they've been travelling so much and so often in this loop that there's now like 7 versions of one scientist and 8 versions of the other. And some groups of those scientists are out to piss off the other groups and sabotage. And it gets to this point where you get to the end and you go, that was clever, I want to have a lie down. That's kind of what it is. So I was watching all these films and I was really enjoying it. But I got to the point where I was thinking, it's great for movies, it's great for storytelling, but what's the point of time travel? If we could do it, why would we do it? It's like the Jurassic Park maxim. We put all this time and effort about whether we can do it, and we don't think about whether we should do it. So let's just ignore all the arguments right now about whether we can time travel, whether we believe it or not, whether we find a car that goes 88 miles per hour, whether it's a fridge that gets hit by a nuclear blast. Because that's originally what was going to be Back to the Future's time machine, a fridge. Seriously. The way I look at it, there's 2 basic kinds of time travel. There's passive and interactive, and both have their own problems. One is the grandfather paradox. I'm sure you're mostly aware of it. The grandfather paradox is this. I go back in time and I kill my granddad with a gun. Or a knife, I haven't decided yet. I go back and I kill my granddad. And therefore, I can't be born, which means there's no one to go back in time to kill my granddad for in the first place, therefore my granddad's still alive, and then my brain goes, and I stop, okay? One of the reasons why I think what's the point is that even as I'm trying to explain this to you now as a plot device, as a narrative, my brain tunes out and I can't cope with it. Now, if it was a real thing, how the hell are we going to deal with time travel? Because this is where time travel isn't just a matter of can we go back in time and see Hitler? Can we go into the future and see hover cars? It's more about the fact that if I go back in time and I change something by accident or on purpose, then that creates a whole different timeline. which means the one I came from surely doesn't exist anymore, or exists in a plane I can't get to. So if I had intentions to, from this realm of reality, to go back in time and change something, it would have no effect here. Surely. Every time you make a change in the timeline, you're breaking it off and you're causing another one. So in fact, basically, you're not changing the continuity of one timeline, you're actually just blossoming a whole tree out of potential ifs and buts. So that's, if we can't get round the plot of Back to the Future 2 without vomiting, how the hell can we factually make it happen and deal with it? Because the minute you send someone back, they're gone forever, bye. Okay, again, let's just say there aren't any paradoxes. Let's just say we can travel to and fro willy-nilly, right? Again, what is the point? The way I look at it is this, is that if we're going to become time travellers, there are only 3 reasons I can think of doing it genuinely. If we were protected, there were no ramifications, here are the 3 reasons why I think you do it. 1, to become a god. Because if you can time travel, you can go back and put 1 penny in your bank account in 1648 and then become rich when you get back. If you can get back, or you can go back and mess up the Second World War, or become a king, or take over the world, or basically become a banker. A soulless, godless, horrible, money-grubbing creature who thinks nothing of fellow man and only manipulates for his own ends. So there's that. The second thing, the second one I've got, tourism. I can't think of any of these to go back in time other than to see what the Titanic looked like, or to see if Hitler was more into the side party than the centre part originally, or to find out what Jack the Ripper's real identity was. But then I think, that's great. I find out who Jack the Ripper was. Who am I going to tell? And the last one is just simple fact-checking. I can't imagine any other reason to go back in time. Like, bloody hell, I went back and saw how they made Stonehenge. The number of slaves they got through, man. It was like dragging it from Wales all the way. And it was just for a fucking rave! You've got those things. So, I think that's the gist of it. I mean, basically what it comes down to, the way I look at time travel, is it needs to be separated from reality. I think if we could do it, it would be dangerous. I don't think humanity can deal with it. I don't think life as we know it would exist the way we recognise it now with time travel. We might already have it, and this might be one fractured moment from it. But the way I look at time travel is, it's more about the stories. It's the morality of time travel. What makes time travel such a great science fiction trope is because it's not about whether we can go into the future or into the past. It's about actions and consequences. The morality tells about what we decide to do when we meddle in our own existence or when we try to change it. And it makes us understand. I mean, we all know, thanks to Back to the Future, that no one should call Marty McFly chicken. That's something we learn from that film. Secondly as well, is that it allows us to indulge in our nostalgia. I think part of humanity's appeal for time travel is that idea of going back to a halcyon day when things were better. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think if I went back to 1880, that's the golden days. Nostalgically remember the past, or we project our hopes and fears into the future. And obviously when it comes to sci-fi, the more depressed a nation is right now, the more depressing the future looks. It's why nearly every single film these days is about the apocalypse, or the oncoming apocalypse, or a science apocalypse, or the end of the world as we know it. That's the only thing we can... There's no more hope anymore, not since the 50s when they made sci-fi. We don't get rocket packs, hover cars anymore. We don't believe that future exists. So, to end, do we have time travel already? Yes. We all have it. It's in your phone right now. It's on your computers. Time travel, I call it, is YouTube. If you want to go back in time and watch a kid show from your youth, YouTube. If you want to go and see some high-definition footage of Russia in 1920 in colour, it exists. YouTube. If you want to see a window into the past, YouTube. If you want to know how depressing the future's going to be, YouTube. And rather than put more money into deciding whether we should time travel or not, there is one invention we never talk about, which needs the time and effort and finance put into it, and it is shrink rays. And I know you're laughing and I think, why would we do it? Because Honey, I Shrunk the Kids showed us the dangers of shrink rays. Well, let's just put it this way. I can sell you on shrink rays with just one idea. You're moving house. Imagine moving house and you can zap every single thing into your room into a box and you carry that one box to your new house. That's why I'm all for shrink rays and far less for time travel. And that's why I don't see the point of it. I thank you. I know!
Paul Gannon, ladies and gentlemen! Okay, who would like to ask the first question? It's always a brave move.
The first question cannot be, what are you on? Just for the record.
Alex, you have a question?
Well, yeah, it was just going to be, don't you think though that time travel, if you don't get involved, could be a worthwhile educational tool?
Well, this is the thing. Tourism, that whole idea of tourism.
No, not just tourism and gawking.
Yeah. Gawking.
Learning.
Stalking.
Not people driving slowly past a car crash, but
Yeah.
people learning exactly why
Yeah.
previous shifts in climate have happened. Going back to the original ice age and going, oh, right, so this is what happened.
I think it's because there is a mystery to the past that we like to explore. With technology the way it is now, everyone's taking pictures of everything, everyone's filming everything. There's more of history being documented and stored now than there ever has been before. So there's going to be a lot less mystery about this period of time we're living in than ever before. So you could argue any education we can get, we can now find by just sourcing whatever's on Wikipedia or on YouTube. And we have this fascination with time travel because it gives us access to that information we don't have or can't imagine. So I think, yeah, it's potentially a good educational tool, and but therefore you would still have to go back in time to get the information and then bring it back to the present day, where everyone is now flipper babies. I don't know where that sentence went at the end.
I can see about like 4 or 5 faces going,
Yeah, I know. My brain did that as well. It's like, really?
it's okay, we'll move on to the next question. Hypothetically, if you could have a person, I can't believe I'm saying this, if you could have a person who was morally perfect, should they be allowed to time travel?
No.
Just then? No. Still no? No. So there's, hello, was that, is that a question?
You can't have a person who's morally perfect.
Yes, we know. That's why I couldn't believe I was saying.
If Jesus went back in time.
Oh my god, that's a TV series.
Time travelling Jesus. Okay.
Back to the pulpit. I really got that for you. I honestly think if we had time travel, it would be outlawed instantly. I think there would be laws. Do you know how bad our government is at dealing with the internet? How are they going to deal with time travel?
That would be a disaster because then you'd just get blackmailed.
Yeah. You'd be like Gary Sparrow from Goodnight Sweetheart. That's what you'd be. Going back, saying you created Elvis songs. Swine. Having an affair with 2 women in different time zones. See, you get time travel and you start cheating on women. That's going to be my excuse.
Adam, what was your question? And this is the last question. What have you got?
So you seem to be saying that the reason we shouldn't time travel, I guess essentially that great, which is consequences. A bit sweet, can you give me a scientific reason why? If we could.
You didn't know what that word was in the middle of that sentence. And then I'm on the same page.
I'm going to point to this.
No, that's fine.
I'm also going to say, sorry Paul, there's no reason for giving Downs logical argument for anything. That's all.
I want to go poo-poo now. I don't mind extending my lexicon, so that's great. But I do need a bit of a
In
language.
which case you can talk about that. You can explain deontology to anyone who's interested.
I'm generally interested to see this question.
What is deontology? Just what is it?
Oh, the idea that you should only do things because you have a duty to do them regardless of the consequences.
Okay.
It's bullshit.
Okay.
Yeah,
I basically just say this: time travel, and the change you make in time travel affects change in itself. And if you went back in time and changed something, we would never know, because this version of our reality exists that we understand it. Any change you make will exist to someone else's reality, and they will already have lived in it. So it's kind of like we could have time travelers now, but this reality, this world we're in, won't know that.
Right. So that's still going to talk about the consequences.
I don't know anymore.